give parents more control over what their children are exposed to in the classroom. Jacqueline Quinones spoke with a former school teacher and now state lawmaker in New York who says it's legalizing discrimination.
You're injecting these concepts about choosing your gender. That is just inappropriate for our schools, and so I don't support that going on.
Florida Republicans want to forbid discussions of sexual orientation or gender identity in schools. The Sunshine State is one of more than a dozen in our nation considering banning conversations around LGBTQ+ people and issues.
I think that the bill is legalized bigotry in an attempt to silence discussion of LGBTQ topics and essentially try to erase LGBTQ people, which is very troubling at a time when nationwide there is a wave of anti-trans, anti-LGBTQ legislation traveling across the country.
In the state of New York, there are strict protections for LGBTQ+ students. Advocates like State Senator Jabari Brisport, who is the first openly gay black man to serve in our state Senate, says this kind of legislation stops kids from talking about family members, neighbors, and role models.
When students have a role model or someone, not even necessarily a role model, but someone that they feel represents their community, that gives them the power to stand in their own truth. And I think that this Florida bill would erase things like that.
Jabari was a middle school math teacher before he worked in the Senate, so he understands the difficulty of being around students who are confused and scared about coming out.
And I had a student who came out to me as non-binary right after I won the primary election before I took office. And what they told me was that my election actually gave them the courage to come out as non-binary.
Peter Criswell, executive director with the Hudson Valley LGBTQ+ community, believes this bill will hurt the youth in more ways than one.
Young people, especially LGBTQ young people, are very vulnerable. You know, they're asking a lot of questions about who they are and how they fit in. And so to create an atmosphere where that conversation is abolished, it doesn't give them any sort of support. It makes them actually feel more isolated. And, you know, unfortunately, there's a really high risk of suicide amongst LGBTQ youth.
Peter says that it's important for LGBTQ+ youth to see themselves reflected in conversations and are supported among other students and their teachers.
The school environment is supposed to be one that holds students and to really give them a supportive space. And again, this legislation would just do exactly the opposite to that.
Jacqueline Quinones, Spectrum News.
The New York Farm Bureau laying out their national priorities for this year, among them addressing both short-term and long-term labor needs. Farmers say some of those needs are allowing trained migrant workers to stay in the country to keep working. One way to do that is by modernizing the H-2A federal guest worker program. That allows foreign nationals to temporarily fill U.S. agriculture jobs. Currently, only farms with seasonal work can apply for the program, which farm officials say especially hurts dairy farms. The Farm Bureau president says dairy prices have risen recently, but that higher import costs may cause problems down the line.
The city of Kingston is looking to cement the future of the land known as Broadway Commons. The land at 615 Broadway is currently owned by the city. Mayor Steve Noble announcing the city is looking for interest from developers to design, construct, and operate a mixed-use development on that piece of land. The city is looking to put a mixture of housing units and commercial retail spaces there. Noble says the potential project must be in line with the city's 2025 comprehensive plan. The deadline for developers to apply is April 1st. More information can be found on the city's website.
Coming up, flight or fight. It's a decision many Ukrainians are facing with Russian forces on the attack. We'll introduce you to one Ukrainian man doing his part to defend his home.